I have made videos about animating in Photoshop and even Procreate before. I have made videos about animating in Photoshop and even Procreate before. Today I'll be making a video about how to animate in Clip Studio Paint. What I like about Clip Studio Paint is that it has a lot of features built in already, so there is no need to worry whether it's lacking something you're looking for or not. First of all, what you need is a drawing tablet. You can use a Wacom or you can just use a mouse. Alternatively, you can download Clip Studio Paint on your iPad. The iPad version, however, is a subscription-based payment, unlike the PC version, which has a one-time purchase. I do not like subscription-based payment very much because paying every month gives me anxiety. So what I did is that I brought the PC version and mirrored my PC screen to my iPad so that my iPad would behave like a vacuum because my vacuum tablet is broken. I made this video about how I mirrored my PC to my iPad before. Although the video was made 4 years ago, I'm still using the same app, Easy Canvas, so it didn't age too poorly. Second, in order to animate in Clip Studio Paint, you need the program. Now there is different version of Clip Studio Paint. There is Clip Studio Paint Pro and there is Clip Studio Paint X. The Pro version lacks more features than the X version. In the Pro version, you can only animate up to 24 frames, unlike in the X version that has unlimited frame limitations. The benefit of the Pro version is that it's cheaper than the X version. This means you can buy the Pro version to test the program out and decide if you want the program to upgrade it from Pro to X or not. The upgrade. It is what I did before as well. I used to use the Pro version just to draw for inspiration. Then I decided I wanted to start animating in this program Pro to X. In order to be sure about your purchase decision on whether you want to continue using the program, I would suggest testing out the free trial of the program or buying the Pro version first before upgrading to X, just to make sure you don't save money. I'll be using the X version in this video. However, you can test out the animation features in the Pro version as well. The only difference is that there will be the limitation of 24 frames in the Pro version. First off, there's different ways you can select the project. I would choose animation over here. There are different presets you can use. I would suggest to just go with 1920 to 180. Another important part about this is to choose. For now, I'm just gonna do okay, this is the border. Now, you might wonder, what's this border here? And this part is the extra. Maybe you could this is where you I like the way it to the window. I will go to the glass. This button is the over here. This is other side. The red. The red part. But I don't really know. Now, I don't use this often either. Just keep going. Next part is the usual zoom in, zoom out, play, go to next frame, previous frame, go to the end of the frame. This here's where it matters. This will probably be the button. So here's the bell. And then if I move the selected part to change new animation, you can see what appears before. And then I move it and now so I'm just gonna open this canvas into is this gonna be 1, 2? So now that I click play, it's just gonna play to 1, 2 into really fast. I can keep doing this. I can go to the next one, create new, okay, like 3, or I can just press it and then you're gonna go to 4 and then 5, and I'll just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can see it now, and that's it. You did it. You made an animation. The end of tutorial. Okay. Yes, you can. Like, this is the main thing that you really need to know about. But to explain it more, now I can click on 6, and then I can hold the 6 in this timeline panel and move it to frame number 10, and you can see that between 5 lines or more. Occupies and I can range however I want and timing everything. Now cells are layers, but layers aren't cells. So what I meant is that if I go to frame number 10, for example, I can link this cell with a layer. So when I click this button up here, this panel gonna appear, and this means I can link a layer from here, which is indicated by this, onto the cells down there. So for example, I want to show layer 1 in here, in this frame. Now layer 1 gonna appear as a the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 again. On the flip side, right click on my mouse right away, and then I can frame how I want to book. That is a dynamic frame. Next button is remove cell. So if I click this and I click remove cell, as you can see, the layer is not removed. The layer is in there. It's just the layer is not attached to the cell anymore. So while cells are layers, but layers aren't cells. So if you delete 3, I can right click here and click delete over here. 3 from the layer is not gone, but 3 from the cell is gone. I hope that's not too complicated to understand. And now I can explain animation folder. You put all the layers that you have over in the animation folder. I can click create here. So now when I hit new animation, you can see this on top of it. It behaves like normal. And now if I put like more, you can see that it's like a layer section, like Inception, different layers together. It's not hard to understand, but it might be confusing at first. But that's basically what animation folder is. You need an animation folder so that you can put all the layers into the animation folder, and then you can assign on the timeline. Now when you create a normal layer, you can see that instead of me being able to create new animation cell or assign cell, it just stacks on normally. Unlike animation folder. Normal folder can be helpful. For example, if I want to use this normal folder for a background, I can rename this as like BG, where I basically keep all the background that I don't want to move. And yes, I can hold on to things in the timeline and move it out. For example, as you can see, things inside the folder. For example, like this, like the line art on the background, and this is like the color of it. So boop. So now this is a layer, this is a layer within a group, but it's not a cell. Layer section. And another thing is you can actually group 2 animation folder into a normal folder as well. And in 7, there's nothing here. And then you can click the onion skimming to see what is before it. Blue is the frame before, which is 6. And green is the frame after, which is 8. So now I'm going, oh, so 7 is in between. I can see this with every frame. If you click animation up there, and like I think I can see even more frames. And that is on it. Now you can see some button ups here, which is keyframing. I'm not sure if it would be too complicated for some of you guys, but I will show what it does. Basically, you click this button, enable keyframe on this layer. It will have this weird up, up, down, down, up, down, down. So I go to move tool. I move this whole thing left here, and then I go to this frame, to the right, and this frame, and then I play it, and then I 1, 2, 3, that's right. And if I go in the middle, I see the whole thing off. Order rule. So that's how keyframe works. You can edit layers with active keyframe. And what this means is that you can edit what is in the layer on its original position before you keyframed it. So it's a cool little feature. And I don't want to go in too deep on it. If you hit this, it will this can adjust the speed of the keyframe. I'm not going to talk about this much right now, but I want to tell you that if you accidentally click this grab editor and then this turns on and you're like, what is going on? Just make sure you click this grab editor again to go back to normal now timeline. And here's the tiny little tip. Right click and animate. So this change the timeline. So I can click here, and then I can keyboard to now I don't need so I just click that. But if you want it, you can adjust it. And that's basically about it. Now I know about what brush are you using?
Like Roblox, the sandbox 3D games using its application.
Right. Okay, I basically used a turn. What I did is I duplicate this. I rename it as animation pen. I click OK. And then what I did is I didn't change much. I just click on this double check here to have more setting. In this pen pressure setting, I turn this up and down. Making the pen look like this. Then edit it to where this is alternate. The lowest amount of pressure will be very thin. And when I press onto it, it will be very thick. Well, not that thick, but pretty different. But what I did there with the pen pressure setting is that the lowest that I press and the highest that I press is not that different from each other. It went from this to this. And that's my animation pen. Now, why is this important? The reason I do this is because when you're drawing this line, but if I use the original it would be like, okay, one line, next one, I make another line, next one, make another line. And then you're gonna play this through. And then you're gonna notice that each of the lines look very different from each other because the tinted pen has a pressure and it can be stylish, but it's gonna be very inconsistent. So my animation pen is not very special. It's just a pen. It's like the most normal kind of pen there is. Next, I have a tip to give, and that is the short buttons that are very important. And that is tab over here, use command, and this one over here, new animation cell. I click edit shortcut and I put it as num plus. You can use anything that you like. Personally, for me, I like the plus button because in my keyboard it's big, it's easy to press, and I just hit boop plus, and there's this satisfying feeling of like me clicking on this button and a boom, new layer, boom, next one, and I have to much more than just pressing. So that I really like. So back in this shortcut setting, next one over here, go to previous frame and go to next frame. I set it as minus and equal. And when I press minus, you can see the red reflection over here. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. So another shortcut. This is personally a very to me, and that is assign multiple steps. The reason this shortcut is important to me is because I did my animation on Procreate, and I didn't want to color in Procreate because coloring in Clip Studio Paint was easier. So I wanted to import my animation on Procreate, save my Procreate file as PSD, which is short for Photoshop file. Then I can open that Photoshop file in Clip Studio Paint as well. After I did that, I opened the file in Clip Studio Paint, and then it's gonna look pretty messy because every single frame is shown in a single page. So it doesn't look very good. I'm sorry about this. Trouble. That I have here onto the cell. If I do the original example too, which is in and button, it will take forever. So there's a shortcut for that. If you click on the file shortcut setting again, and then you go here, assign multiple cells, and edit shortcut, I put it as Shift C, and then when I click that, this wonderful panel appears where I can assign the value, and then press that OK, and then bam, all the things in order in the as you can see, now I can and then I can go to the fill tool and make sure that you have referred to multiple boop 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 boop. So easy. It's so convenient, and then everything just start getting filled in. It's very satisfying. It's probably my favorite part of the process in the animation. My leg is numb. Send home. Oh my god. Alright, and here now I will show this quick animation I made on Clip Studio Paint alone. Here is the order of creating the animation. First, what I did is I drew the sketch of the animation, dragged it down on this folder, and then I create another folder, I call it line art, and then I just drew over it, make the thing look better. I separated the hair and the line art together because it's easier to draw the hair. And then after I'm done with the line art, I put in the base color. I did separate each part of the body though. I separated the skin, the hair color, the base, and everything. The reason I did that is because when I use the clipping mask on the color layers, I can change the entire color in that specific color part. Yes, in Clip Studio Paint, you are allowed to use clipping mask on folders, so the entire animation folder can be masked, which is awesome. Lastly, I did the background, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Now, this is not video editing program, so you can't really generate a particle. so you have to draw it yourself. So I just like did a terrible job of drawing these flower petals manually. But then it works somehow, kinda. So there it is, flower petals. Lastly, I just added a bit of overlay, so I just put pink on top, and then I clicked on that layer, and then I clicked overlay, and boom. And then it might not look that different, but I mean, it looks already pink, but it's more pink now. I don't know why I wanted to look that pink, but sure. And then the next step that you can try is the keyframing one. Now I will try to use the keyframe on this cloud. Let me rename this as cloud. And I turn this cloud on this one panel. I set my tool to move the cloud on a bit like this. And then I go to the last frame over here. And I move the cloud a bit like this. Then what you will see is the cloud will move. I can even group the entire thing over here and call it like the bodies. And I can assign the keyframe onto this layer.
I hate this. What the fuck?
I can move like the whole body. It will be quite laggy at first. Lastly, exporting. Now, when it comes to exporting, you just have to click File, Export Animation. There are different options over here. There's Image Sequence, which is important if you want to export each individual frame. That was a good animation. I made the back. And like
but there are a few little tips I have for you that you can use in Clip Studio Paint to work, and are really going to help you out. By the way, this is not a video about the basics of how to animate in Clip Studio Paint. I'm not going to go over that stuff. These are just some tips that are going to make your life a lot easier. So first of all is keyframes, which I originally didn't know about, and it's a really useful thing once you learn how to use them. So for the record, I'm not talking about planning out your keyframes in advance. I'm talking about automated keyframes that Clip Studio Paint is going to do for you. So for example, if I have the circle, around. Some of these ones come with Clip Studio, but you can get any kind of skybox and import it. So I'm going to take that panoramic shot that's been imported, and I'm going to make sure it's the keyframe so it will show up. So that's my panorama, and now I'm going to create a keyframe for it. Long image so because it's then going to give the impression that the camera's tilting, and as if it's a real live action camera to some extent, we get the impression of moving around in a 3D space by scrolling through this big image that's been drawn in perspective. So I'm going to show you how affected by this. Select this 2D camera and we can move it around. You can see down here, keyframes. Our next frame, let's give it 3 seconds, and we're going to move the camera again. You can move it around like this, or you can use something like the arrow keys if you want to make sure it's going to just move in one direction, but I'm not going to waste too much time doing that. So here's our next frame, and you can see it's automatically put it down here, so we're going to change it to smooth installation. So what we're going to do here is basically we haven't had to animate anything yet. It's just done automatically. Now you might notice so as you can see, it's working exactly as I set it up. I haven't had to do any like traditional animation. I've just drawn one frame, and we've got some movement just because of the camera moving around with some simple keyframes. So definitely.
All of a sudden you can't live without. Last time I gave you 50 quick tips for Clip Studio Paint, and people liked them so much that I'm back with another 50. This is 50 more tips for Clip Studio Paint. Let's get right into it. Did you know that Clip Studio Paint can actually color everything for you completely automatically? So if I throw together some kind of weird doodle, let's call it Sonic the Hedgehog, something like that. Colors here without any real thought or effort put into it. And I said, why not, as a reference player, I think I have the the image for me. With more effort, I think you could have some really cool effects with, and really automate steps something it will benefit. By the way, if you want to learn how to export transparent animations to do something like that with, I'm going to teach you how to do that in just a minute. Sometimes using the fill tool can be a bit of a pain because it will react to things and do things that you didn't want to, but I'm going to show you how you can really make your life easier when using it. So for example, with a scene here that's a complete mess with overlapping lines, if I set this circle in the center as a reference layer, and I go into my fill tool and go into my tool properties and set it to only refer to the reference layer, when I go to fill in that page, it's only going to react to the things that I want it to react to. And making sure your fill tool is set up properly can really automate huge parts of the process. outline apparently. Down. An outline. Ordinary way, you want to layer property and then turn on border effect and choose your settings. Normally what you would have to do to get another outline is to flatten this layer so the outline becomes part of it and then add another border effect on top of that. But that can be a bit annoying in case you want to change your border effect made for one of labeled with names and software. I can just see based on the wood this one ticking these boxes next to the layer for additional selected at the same time. So for example, you can move all of these around together. There are also a couple of interesting ways to select multiple layers at the same time. So for example, you can simply click and drag to choose as many layers as you want, or you can do the standard window shortcuts of using Shift to select from one to another. Over here. There's a couple of cool things you can do with it. Useful apply an update or something while I'm eating dinner or something like that, and it can be extremely annoying, so it's useful to have some level of auto recovery enabled, I think. A bit of a useful tip if you're watching this as someone who hasn't bought Clip Studio Paint yet is that you may be aware it often goes on sale. Something that I did that I thought was really cool is you can buy the cheaper version, the Clip Studio Paint Pro, on sale, and then if you upgrade to Clip Studio Paint EX, the slightly more expensive version, when that is also on sale, you only pay the difference, and you only pay the difference for the sales price. So to upgrade from Pro to EX can be relatively cheap if you're getting it while it's on sale. So I think it's really cool they let you do it that way, and I think that's quite a cool tip for people who haven't bought Clip Studio yet and maybe want to try out the Pro version and then are thinking about upgrading to the EX version later for some of the features like better animation tools and things like that. A quick and easy way to change your brush size is to hold down Alt and Control and then drag on the canvas, and it will not only let you change your brush size, but it will show you directly how big that brush is going to be on the canvas. If you're using the bucket fill tool a lot, you can actually just drag across the page to fill in multiple areas, and this is a really cool way to very quickly get a lot of areas filled in if you've got a detailed artwork with different segments. Clip Studio Paint has some really cool panorama tools, so if you open up your materials and go into 3D, you can find these spheres, which are a panorama that if you simply drag onto the canvas, you can move these around as a background in 3D space. These are particularly useful for comics and animation, where you might want to be able to accurately move a scene around without having to redraw it every time. There are plenty of these pre-built into Clip Studio Paint, but you can also download them as well. This is particularly useful if your tablets that you're using doesn't have shortcut keys or something like that. If you go into Window and then Quick Access, you can set up these Quick Access palettes, which are really useful for being able to access a ton of different shortcuts, and you can set it up however you want. Last time I mentioned the eyedropper having some different settings, being able to pick the display color or pick color from layer, but if you go into your tool properties, there's even more options. You can choose to pick from or exclude certain parts of the image, or you can choose a radius that you want to pick from, creating an average color from the colors within that radius, and you can choose the size of that as well. Here's a really useful tool, especially for filling in line art. If you go into your fill tool and then go down to enclose and fill, in your tool property tab, you'll be able to choose your settings such as target color and tolerance, close gap, etc. And with these set up, what this means is you can very easily and precisely fill in line art with very minimal room for mistakes. It essentially automates the entire process in an even easier way that you're able to do with just a normal fill tool. Going into your tool properties will reveal a ton of options for basically every tool, by the way. For example, if you go to Mesh Transformation to transform something and then go into your tool properties, you can change the amount of points you can choose from, or with your selection tool, there's a ton of different options you can choose here. Auto actions are really useful. In the last video, I explained that you can download these from the Clip Studio Asset Store to make your life a lot easier, but what I didn't realize at the time was how easy it actually is to make these on your own. So you simply go into your auto action tab, which will be in the Windows tab at the top, then simply create a new auto action, press the record button, do whatever action you want to do, and then stop recording, and then at any time you can play this back, and Clip Studio will automatically repeat the process that you've just done with a single click, so you don't have to do all of this every single time, and it can save so much time for a lengthy process that you're repeating constantly. It's a really cool new feature where you can use your smartphone as a remote control for Clip Studio Paint, allowing similar functionality to something like a TabMate, but using hardware you already own. However, this only works with Samsung Galaxy phones, and despite me having one of those, I think you actually need to own the mobile version of Clip Studio Paint, which requires a subscription to use. So it's a cool feature, but I honestly don't know if that many people are going to be using it, if I'm honest. A lot of people have the mobile version of Clip Studio Paint with a subscription service. A lot of people use the desktop version of Clip Studio Paint, which is a one-time payment. A lot of people have Samsung Galaxy phones, but the crossover for someone to have all three of those is probably fairly limited. Here's a nice simple one. If you create a selection and then go into Edit Outline Selection, you can create an outline of any shape or selection that you've drawn. When trying to move selections around, you may have come across this cross in the middle of your selection that is kind of annoying because it gets in the way when you're trying to drag the selection around and you end up dragging the cross instead. It actually does have a function. This defines the